It is one of the most highly anticipated days on the sports calendar. NCAA Tournament Selection Sunday. We've got 5 teams from the Carolinas that are going to be dancing, and we're going to talk about it all night here on the WCNC Plus, WFMY Plus, NCAA Tournament Bracket Breakdown. I'm going to bring in our good pal from WFMY in Greensboro, Logan Campbell. Hope you got a little sleep after that late night here in Charlotte with the Duke ACC tourney win.
Hey, Nick. Yeah, well, we have reached the best and the busiest time of year. This is my favorite. It feels like Christmas Eve with the bracket selection show. I'm ready to get to work and break this all down.
Absolutely. So we've got Duke, of course. We've got Clemson. We've got Furman. We're going to be live at Queens and High Point. We've got NC State in the play-in, and we're doing this in no particular order. We had to respect the time of our good friend from Locked On Heels, Isaac Shade, who joins us live now. Isaac's got a lot going on tonight. Isaac, we really appreciate your time. So your initial reaction to North Carolina as a 6th seed taking on VCU down in Greenville next week?
Expectation for me for the Tar Heels. My immediate reaction was to see USF, the Bulls, in the first bracket because I did not want the Tar Heels to have any part of that. They get VCU, which, good grief, VCU and their just litany of history in the NCAA tournament. They're great coaches, one of whom, of course, we know well now in the Triangle, Will Wade. Now they have Phil Martelli Jr., who comes over. This is his first year and is now in back-to-back tournaments. He was in the tournament last year at his old school. VCU just keeps on rolling. They've won 16 of their last 17 games, ended up winning the A-10 to get in along with St. Louis out of that conference. Going to be a very tough draw for Carolina to get ready on Thursday.
Hey, Isaac, I have a question for you. After the selection show, the committee said that a lot of their decision-making was based off of Caleb Wilson's injury. Do you think that that's fair for them to factor that into where they seeded them?
I absolutely think it's fair. North Carolina is now 5-3 without Caleb Wilson. They went into that Duke game to end the regular season 5-1 without him. But if we're being honest, they haven't looked great in either of those 2 games, losing at Duke or losing to Clemson in the quarterfinals of the ACC tournament. They've got to find some ways to figure out now who they are without him, despite the fact that they've played 8 games. It feels like they're still kind of reeling without him. So I think it's very fair of the committee to do that, as they will have done with JT Toppin and Texas Tech, as they did all those years ago with Cincinnati and Kenyon Martin.
Isaac, the 2 big words that kept getting thrown around after Carolina's loss to Clemson in that quarterfinal game here in Charlotte: physicality, and then Hubert said the word hunger multiple times. He talked to his team all week about that. How much of that came from Caleb Wilson throughout the year, and why has that been such a tough adjustment for the rest of this team to make? Even though the record's good in his absence, now you're talking about playing tournament teams every day.
That's a great question. And what was a little concerning to me was that after the Duke loss, we heard some of that same verbiage. And so I fully expected the Tar Heels to come out in the ACC quarterfinals against Clemson, who, by the way, were dealing with an injury in their own front court that night, and show some of that resolve, show some of that physicality, because they know a Brad Brownell team is always going to bring that at you on the floor. You've got a senior leader in Seth Trimble, whose athleticism should be able to lead the way. You've got Henry Vasar, who I like to call the big Estonian, screaming at anyone and everyone who will listen, and yet they still struggled to get there. So what I'm really anxious and curious to see is then, from Thursday losing against Clemson to this Thursday playing VCU, what can they get figured out in that resolve? And is there some of that desperation that sneaks in? Seth Trimble is one of just 22 seniors in the entirety of Division I who has played all 4 years at the same school. How will we see him play? Because any of these games could be his last as a Tar Heel.
Isaac, you just mentioned a few things that you want to see improve from the Tar Heels after their loss to Clemson. But in this matchup, VCU is not an easy draw. What's the biggest thing that scares you about this team when Carolina is going to face them on Thursday?
One of the things about VCU is that because of the history I talked about earlier, because of Coach Martelli being in the NCAA tournament last year, albeit at a different school, there's no like, oh my goodness, the Argyle, the baby blue, right? They're going to come in expecting to be able to win this basketball game against the Tar Heels. The Rams, Shaka Smart and Mike Rowe, like all of these great coaches that have been there, there was not going to be an intimidation factor for them. And so that's one of the things that scares me, is that there's not oh my, it's North Carolina and all that. Carolina's got to come in ready to play against a VCU team that isn't here because they went on some miracle run in the A-10 tournament. As I just said, they're 16-1 in their last 17 games. All anybody's been talking about this season in the A-10 is St. Louis, but VCU has been right there all along as well. This is a very good basketball team, a well-coached basketball team that North Carolina has to show up ready to play, or they will go home in round one.
Talking to Isaac Shade, who covers North Carolina for Locked On Heels. You can find his work at Locked On Heels. Isaac, the Hubert Davis conversation has been happening since he took the job, right? And even though he got to the championship game and had a 15-point lead at halftime against Kansas that night, where is the conversation right now, and what does he need to do to, I guess, relieve some of it in this tournament?
That's a great question. And you know, I think I kind of messed things up that night. I was in the Superdome, and I made a comment to somebody at halftime of that national championship game like, hey, things are looking pretty good here. So, you know, I'll take the blame for jinxing.
Wouldn't be the
that
first kicker jinx in the Superdome, though. So
honestly, that's a great point. But here's the thing specific to this year with Hubert Davis and the Tar Heels. Coming into the 25-26 season, there was a lot of hot seat conversation, not just in Chapel Hill, but nationally, about Hubert Davis. If Hubert Davis was off the hot seat before the Caleb Wilson injury, which I firmly believe that he was, then I don't think it's fair to now put him on it because of the Caleb Wilson injury, which we have to recognize. This guy is basically averaging just shy of 20 and 10. He's going to be a top 5 pick in the NBA draft. So there's a grain of salt that we have to take because of the Wilson injury. Like, that is a massive factor. The problem, though, for Tar Heels fans, and I get this, is the up and down inconsistency that the Tar Heels have shown through these first 5 years. It's tough because Hubert Davis has never been a head coach at the D1 level, aside from coaching Carolina's JV before arriving as the head coach of the Tar Heels. He arrived just on the onset of NIL and transfer portal and all of that. He is the only, we've heard this stat all season long now since Carolina got to 20 wins, the only one that has gotten to 20 wins in each of his first 5 seasons as the head man of the Tar Heels. I'm of the mind, and hand up, I'm a glass half full kind of guy. I will admit that. I'm of the mind that we move on too quickly in this day and age, and I would love to see Hubert Davis get more time in Chapel Hill, but I get that the groundswell is big and going to be very interesting to see what happens as new AD Steve Newmark moves into the role as Bubba Cunningham moves on.
Isaac, this isn't the first time that the Tar Heels have been the 6th seed in the tournament. They were also the 6th seed in 1996, 2004, 2014. All 3 of those times, they failed to make it out of the second round. Now, I know they have to make it past the first round first, but what is it going to take for them to break that curse?
Well, it's going to be very difficult because most likely staring them down on the other side of the second round is going to be Illinois, who is the #1 team in offensive efficiency at KenPom this season. They are loaded. Keaton Wagler has exploded out of nowhere and is probably going to be a top 10 pick in the NBA draft. Everyone has made jokes all season about the Eastern Bloc that they have. Tomislav Ivicic, Zvonimir Ivicic, you've got David Mirkovic, you've got Andrei Stojakovic, all of these guys, and then Kylan Boswell, a grizzled veteran kind of leading the way. Illinois doesn't play great defense, but that offense can blow anybody out of the water. And I believe, if I remember the bracket right, I'm not looking at it right now, I think Illinois plays Penn, and Penn has TJ Power that started at Duke, went to Virginia. He dropped 44 today in the Ivy League Championship, scoring exactly half of Penn's points. They've got a great coach in Fran McCaffrey, who left Iowa and is now up at Penn. So Carolina's got a big hill to climb ahead of them.
All right, Isaac Shade, you're the best. You can find him at Locked On Heels. He's got plenty of work to do tonight as the Heels are a 6th seed in the NCAA tournament taking on Virginia Commonwealth. Isaac, thanks so much, man.
My pleasure, guys. Thanks so much for having me. Let's have a good tournament.
All right. Logan, before we get to J.J. Jackson from the Locked On Duke podcast, I do want to play this soundbite from Hubert Davis, if our lovely producer Jeb can find it in all the bevy of content that I left for him. And he was talking about the discussions he had with his team all week about toughness, about being hungry. And Jeb, do we have this soundbite? This is what he said after the team lost to Clemson the other night.
Specifically, I talked to the team. what is today? Thursday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and today. About having that hunger and that thirst. That hunger and that thirst to compete, the hunger and thirst to prepare, to practice, hunger and thirst to play together as a team and as a group as long as we can. And so we've talked about that at great length.
All right, again, that was Hubert Davis after Carolina's loss to Clemson in the ACC tournament here in Charlotte. Logan, before we move on to talk about Duke, what's your biggest concern, for a Carolina team you've covered the whole way through?
Yeah, well, I mean, we've heard Hubert Davis say that multiple times this year. That's not the first time that he said we need to be tough, we need to be better, we need to want to show up to practice and practice hard. So to me, that's very concerning that this late in the season, you are still having those conversations with your team. I think that's something that you straight up just can't teach them. They either have it or they don't. I get it. It's a long season. They had to deal with a lot of injuries. They had their best player out. But, Seth Trimble, a guy who's been at the program all 4 years, needs to take this team, rein them in, and say, guys, we got to get out of this funk. We have to get it together and go on a run in this tournament because this is his last time playing in the Carolina blue and white. He's going to want to go out with a bang. So we'll see how they prepare after an early exit in the ACC tournament. But, if you're still having those conversations, Nick, like I just said, it's very concerning.
All right, we're going to move on to Duke now. Again, this is in no particular order. Had to start with Carolina for Isaac's timing. J.J. Jackson from the Locked On Blue Devils podcast is going to join us now, and I think he may be a guest on our show several times over the next 3 or 4 weeks. J.J., thanks for joining us. Duke, the number 1 overall seed, starting out in Greenville in the East region. They're taking on 16th seeded Siena. For the Duke haters out there, I've heard there are a few who want to see a Duke first-round exit. Any chance?
Yeah, there were a few that littered the Spectrum Center throughout the course of the week with everyone hoping that the team would go down -2 starters. I don't know that this week in Greenville is going to be the chance that the upset comes through, but crazy things have happened in March. This is a Duke team that certainly in recent memory, you've had the upsets against Lehigh and Mercer, just to go back about a decade or so. But I think this Duke team is going to be able to take care of business. They were so impressive, Nick, with what they were able to do in the ACC tournament, again, without Caleb Foster, without Patrick Gongba II, and it certainly helps when you've got the nation's best player.
JJ, Big Pat, they're hoping that he'll be back for this first round. How much of a help will that be being close to full strength for the NCAA tournament?
I think that's going to be super important. I think the fact that you saw Malik Brown go into the starting lineup for Duke now in his senior season. He's such an amazing player off the bench for Duke. He won the ACC Defensive Player of the Year and Sixth Man of the Year award. However, in every first half that he started, replacing Patrick Gongba II, he picked up 2 quick fouls and went into foul trouble and had to go to the bench for the rest of the first half before coming back in. So when you bring in another front court player like Patrick Gongba II, that just makes everybody's rotation a whole lot better. The scoring touch for Gongba is much more fine-tuned than it is for Malik Brown, so that's going to be a boost for Duke offensively, and then he really helps in the rebounding department as well. So looking at this first weekend of action for sure, that's where Duke's really going to have a major advantage against the opponents that they'll see is just the rebounding department, because Duke can rebound the heck out of the basketball.
JJ, applying last night's ACC tournament final win against Virginia to what may be in store for the Blue Devils in the NCAA tournament, I'm way less concerned about Cameron Boozer's performance and way more positive about Caden Boozer's performance. What could he do if he can bring that to March? What does that do for this team?
Yeah, it makes them deserving of the number 1 overall seed and deserving of any praise or consideration as a favorite to possibly win this thing. Prior to the ACC tournament, Caden Boozer was averaging 6.5 points. He had 13.5 points across the 3 ACC tournament games, including 2 straight 16-point scoring outputs, and really kind of dictated the pace and flow that Duke was going with, really got after it on the defensive end of the floor. And I think if he's able to play like he did in the ACC tournament, Duke's going to feel really good. The question is, can Duke sustain any shooting struggles that might come their way? And when you've got them cleaning up the glass with Boozer and Brown and Gongba, Sarr rebounding on the inside. It certainly helps if there is an off shooting night, because that's the one thing everybody wants to point to is that 3-point percentage for Caden Boozer this season. It's not Caleb Foster's level, but there are other ways to work around and make up for it.
JJ, we saw a little bit of Duke's vulnerability. Gosh, that is a hard word to say during this ACC tournament. Yeah, we're just trying to get it together. Anyways, we saw their I'm not going to even say it. We saw them, take a little step back in the ACC tournament. Obviously, they have the injuries that they're dealing with, but this East is loaded. Looking ahead, what team do you think will give Duke the hardest time in this NCAA tournament?
Yeah, it's incredible to look at the bracket and to see all of the Hall of Fame coaches that are in this region for Duke. Specifically, when you look at the 2 seed like UConn, you've got Tom Izzo and Bill Self, who have had their run-ins with the Blue Devils. Rick Pitino's the 5 seed at St. John's. I mean, there are so many great coaches up and down the order. Mick Cronin's done a great job there at UCLA. I would be really intrigued by that 1-2 matchup if everything kind of goes chalk and you've got Duke versus UConn. Given the experience of someone like Alex Caravan and that UConn team, winning national championships already in his playing career, the toughness of somebody like Dan Hurley, I think that's going to be the making of a really awesome basketball game if it came to that. Duke's already got wins this season over both Michigan State and Kansas, so that makes you feel a little bit better about those possible matchups that could play out there. And that Michigan State win, for example, was in East Lansing, a true road victory for the Blue Devils when that came around. But I'd really be intrigued to see how that Elite Eight matchup would go if they were to take on UConn.
Locked On Blue Devils podcast host JJ Jackson. You can find him at _JJ_Jackson_, right? 3. We got to make sure we get them all. And a few more minutes with you for now, and we're going to come back to you later because, Duke being the number 1 overall seed, I think for the 16th time in their history, which is ridiculous. I want to talk about Isaiah Evans, a kid I covered in high school here in Charlotte. Man, when he's in his groove, this team is really tough to stop. I don't know. Would you call him like the X factor as they get in some of these big games? What can he provide when he's hitting shots, which, he doesn't always. He's a little streaky. He's a little up and down. He was in Charlotte.
Yeah, I like that. I'm totally fine with X factor. I think back to the game he had against Florida where Duke went up and beat the number 1 team there inside Cameron Indoor Stadium, the reigning national champions, I should say. And it was Isaiah Evans who was 0 for 7 in that game and hit the game winner when it mattered most. He was able to come through in the clutch. In the game on Friday of the ACC tournament run that Duke had against Clemson, Isaiah Evans did not make a single 3-point shot, going 0 for 7 again. So to your point, there have been some streaky numbers and games from time to time for Slim. But the overwhelming majority of the season this year, he's come through in the clutch. Duke has still yet to lose a single game in his entire career when he makes at least 3 3-point shots or more. So that's a number to certainly follow as you're filling out your March Madness brackets. If Slim is hitting 3 or more threes, it is really hard to beat this Duke basketball team. Nobody's done that before, and when a team really needs 3-point shooting in March Madness, Duke is going to be looking at Isaiah Evans to come through.
JJ, I think Dame Sarr is one of the most, if not the most, underrated player on this Duke team. What does he bring that just helps elevate their performance on the court?
Yeah, he's awesome. He's so fun to watch, and whether it be just his story of already playing for FC Barcelona, coming over and growing up in Italy, speaking 6 languages, which I don't think is talked about enough, how impressive that is for an 18-year-old. But what he's able to do on the defensive end of the floor is incredible. He always picks up the other team's best player, no matter who it is. Dame Sarr is going to be guarding them. And then he's really turned himself into a reliable 3-point shooter. Over the last month or so, he's near a 40% clip at that 3-point number. So many open looks in the corner and gets after it as a rebounder as well. So I'm right there with you. I think he's one of the most underrated players on this year's Duke team in the ACC, and I'm really excited for people watching March Madness to get to know number 7 for Duke's name, Dame Sarr.
All right, JJ Jackson from Locked On Blue Devils. Don't go anywhere, JJ. Covering the number 1 overall seed in the country comes at a price. You got to join us back here at the bottom of the hour, and I got to talk to you a lot about John Shire and what he is doing, especially this year, especially this week in Charlotte with the work he did on the sideline. So JJ Jackson, we'll hit you back in a few minutes. All right, so we got two great stories, potential Cinderellas, Logan, here in North Carolina. Up your way in Greensboro, we've got the High Point Panthers back for the second straight year. We're going to get to High Point, going to get to a live report from campus in a minute. But down here in the city of Charlotte, what a story we have from the Queens Royals. In for the first time in their first year of eligibility, and they had a great party today on campus at Curry Arena. That's where we find our own Danielle Stein. Danielle, history made today at Queens University.
It absolutely was. Of course, they knew that this was coming, having punched their ticket just about a week ago when they won the ASUN Conference Tournament. That one going to an overtime win, kind of setting them up pretty well for what is to come later in the month of March. But this arena was packed just moments ago with fans. They actually sold out for the student tickets, getting to see the reaction of the players, the coaches, and the entire Royals fan base as they heard their names called. There was definitely a lot of anticipation waiting because there was not really exactly certainty where they would kind of fall in terms of the seeding, but once they heard that number 15 out of the West region, where they will be facing the 2 seed in Purdue, this place just erupted. It was so fun to see. There was a funny moment early on when they did announce Duke as the 1. People were kind of looking like, maybe is this going to be us as the 16, and are we going to have an easy trip to get our fans there? But it looked like a little bit of a sigh of relief to find out that they would not be facing the number 1 team in the Duke Blue Devils.
Yeah, they're going to go out to St. Louis and play Purdue. Just won the Big Ten championship this afternoon out there in the West region. Danielle, I mean, this team has been so much fun all year. The coach is fun. He's got a great fashion sense, if you will. They've got a fun mascot. Just tell us about the color of Queens basketball.
Yeah, they're leaning into really like the joys of what you see in March Madness. When you think of a mid-major and you think of, for example, McNeese State just a couple years ago with the aura and all the fun that they were having with walking in with the boombox, there's always those stories. This year it's going to be Buddy the Street Dog. He's their little mascot they see all the time. He's got his chain, and basically what they do is they give him out to a player who they call the street dog of the game. Whoever's putting in that effort, that hustle guy. And this year, Man is the guy on the team who's actually won it more than everyone all season long. And like you said, of course, the fashion of head coach Grant Leonard. He wears his sweaters, his holiday themed sweaters. We can definitely account for a St. Patty's one coming up later this week. But I caught up with head coach Leonard as well as Man just a little bit ago and got to kind of go into everything that has to do with this tournament run. Let's take a look at that. Queens going dancing, we know officially about a week ago, but now the picture is a little bit more clear. The number 15 seed, you guys are headed to St. Louis, taking on Purdue. Coach, we just heard from you earlier, and you talked about how surreal it is. Can you just kind of paint the picture of the emotions you were feeling?
I mean, there's so many, joy for the group, the players, and we have a player forward program, so it's about them, and then such excitement for the entire city and the Myers Park community. I just couldn't be more happy for what these guys accomplished.
You have a number of players who have stayed with your program, but also other additions. Nazir, I want to ask you, just when you had the idea of coming to Queens and what kind of impact you wanted to make and how far this team could go, would you have ever imagined that here you guys would be getting ready for March Madness?
Yes, actually I would. On my recruiting visit, I was talking with my coach the other day. He told me, he said, if you stay the course and you trust in the process, he said you'll get everything you want out of this. And one of the things I really wanted was to go to March Madness with this team.
As we were just watching the broadcast unfold with the bubble, with the bracket, everything, what was your emotions as you were waiting for them to say, for the first time in their program history, Queens is headed to the dance?
Yeah, it was a little bit of a roller coaster. We didn't know what seed we'd be, so we didn't really know when we'd be up on the screen, but when we finally heard our name and we saw ourselves on the screen, it was really exciting. I think we're ready.
You guys have faced a lot of really good opponents this season, teams like Virginia, Arkansas, teams that have tested you a lot throughout your season. How is that going to help you as you're getting ready to face a team like Purdue?
Yeah, small victories within those games where, like out-rebounding Arkansas and then really scoring the ball. I think we shot 60% versus Villanova. We're going to have to combine all that and have a true 40-minute effort, produce a fantastic opponent. But our guys are going to be ready, and they're going to be super excited to show people what Queens basketball is made of.
Coming off of this run you guys had in the conference tournament, being able to finish an overtime win to secure the first title, I mean, that's got to set you guys up, I'm sure, for just that tournament feel. How do you think you you can take the run from the conference tournament into March Madness now?
I mean, there's definitely momentum there. So we do want to handle late game, a little better. But I think that was a great preparation for what March is really about.
Absolutely. You guys are about to take the court to practice for the first time, officially knowing who you're facing. I know you haven't probably done the scouting report just yet, but how eager are you just to be back out on the court with your guys right now and just kind of get back to work again?
Yeah, we're ready. We're ready to go out there, ready to start to get to work.
And Coach, same for you. I mean, you guys are about to head back out onto the court knowing, hey, we can't just celebrate anymore. It's time to turn it back on.
Yeah, I thought Friday we actually had our best practice of the year. Yesterday the guys had off, and today we'll get ready again. I just know that they're going to be prepared. It's all about character, and you can win a lot of games with talented players, but when you have character on your team, that's when you win when it gets hard.
I hear that St. Louis is a great place for Buddy the Street Dog. What do you think about that?
Oh yeah, Buddy's ready to see the arch, for sure.
Awesome. Congratulations, guys, and best of luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Man, they got to win some games because this is a fun story. Grant Leonard sporting his custom holiday sweaters. He had Christmas, Hanukkah, Thanksgiving, Groundhog Day, President's Day. He told me months ago in the middle of the season he wanted to make the tournament so he could wear a St. Patrick's Day sweater. That was his challenge to the guys. He wore one after they won the ASUN tournament. I hope he's got one against Purdue next week in St. Louis. Danielle, that brings me to my next point. Purdue's good. And I know you talked to Grant a little bit about it there, and he talked to the assembled media about what they're up against in the Boilermakers. Again, Big Ten champs. How does he kind of see that matchup? And we know they're getting to work right away. I think they practice tonight, right?
Yeah, they'll be taking the court basically at the top of the hour. Some of the guys are getting ready to come out here in just a couple of minutes at this point. But yeah, it is interesting because head coach Leonard was telling us that they did start doing a little bit of scouting on some teams, thinking about who they could potentially be facing, who could be one of those 2 or 3 seeds. Purdue, not one of the teams that they have any sort of look at just yet in terms of the scouting. They have a little bit of a look when it comes to the ACC and the SEC from playing opponents this season. They did not face any Big Ten opponents, and Coach Leonard was saying the Big Ten is a very different style of basketball. It is big and it is physical, and we just saw that earlier today when Purdue beat Michigan in the Big Ten championship for that conference tournament. So they're going to have a lot of work cut out for them. They have one of the most prolific scorers in all of college basketball that they're going to have to handle. But this is a team that's really priding themselves on that togetherness, not just that individuality of individual players and performances. It's all about what they can do as a collective group. And Nick, I do want to make it known that I did hear head coach Leonard say that he is 100% Irish. So he has been looking forward to the St. Patty's Day sweater more than any of the other holiday sweaters all season.
Oh my God, he's got a win in that thing. Danielle Stein, a real reporter at Curry Arena. Nick Carboni here in studio. I do have a report about Buddy the Street Dog. If we can look at some video of Buddy at the post-ASUN presser last week. Buddy, I think he's a German Shepherd, I assume. But this is Buddy 2 because Buddy 1 lost some legs in a post-game celebration a couple of weeks ago. Danielle, one more minute with you here. Just being there today. This is a program that was perennially a contender in Division II. They didn't jump to D1 until 4 years ago, and they were not eligible for March Madness until this year. What was the anticipation like? I mean, there was a bit of a cliffhanger in that show before we got to Queens. It wasn't like they were right off the bat. I thought they were going to play UConn. I had heard that may be the case, so it was a bit of a surprise to me. It was Purdue. But, you know, we witnessed a historic moment at Queens University today. What was it like?
Yeah, I definitely think a lot of the players also thought that UConn matchup was happening. I saw some phones come out a little bit more urgently when they started talking about UConn, but you could just tell that this is a team that is excited. They were getting on their feet. They had everything today. They had the music, they had the DJs, they had the mascots, they had everything going for them. The guys just seemed really excited. They seemed ready to, and I think just having them coming back out into the court here in just a couple of minutes shows their readiness to just take on this challenge challenge. And like you said, this was a perennial contender in the D2 level, and Coach Leonard was saying the culture and drive of this Queens program has not changed since the 80s when they first were formed. Just because they're now D1, that doesn't take away from all the success that they had, and they're just really carrying it over into this new chapter. Like we said, it's the first year they're ever even eligible for the NCAA tournament, and to get it done this year, it's not like if they won the ASUN tournament last year, they would have not been able to play in March Madness. So doing it this year, where they now have the chance to make a little bit more history, everyone knows how significant this is for Myers Park, for Charlotte, and just for their program as a whole.
All right, Danielle Stein live for us at Queens University as the Royals punch their ticket to the NCAA tournament for the first time. They will play Purdue next week as a 15 seed against a 2. You are watching the WCNC Plus, WFMY Plus NCAA tournament bracket breakdown. We've talked Carolina, we've talked Duke, we're going to talk State, we talk Queens, what a Cinderella story they could be. High Point made its history last year and they doubled up. They're back again this year. So I want to go live again now to High Point. Okay, we're not quite ready for the Panthers. We get a look at the arena there. Logan, what a story this program has been the last couple of years.
Gosh, they have just been one of the most fun teams in the country to watch, in my opinion. Yes, they made history doing it last year, but going back-to-back under a first-year head coach in Flynn Clayman, I mean, that's so impressive, especially for a mid-major school. They had a complete turnover this year, and they're able to do it once again. They have a high-flying offense. I don't know if a lot of people down in the Charlotte area have seen High Point play this year, but they play fast. They take shots at a high volume. They actually have the longest winning streak in the country at 14. So we'll see if they can make some noise out in Portland. They are lucky that they have the 12 seed. If you don't know, 12 seeds have the highest chance to upset in the tournament. They'll face Wisconsin, who is the 5 seed in Portland. So we'll see how this all shakes out, Nick. I'm very excited to watch them play.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm taking High Point for at least one game and probably to get to the second weekend.
Yeah.
They're such a fantastic team. So we've got Bryce Parker live for us at High Point. Man, what a moment. Listen, they lived it last year, Bryce. What was it like to see them get it again here on Selection Sunday?
Yeah, Nick, a little bit of deja vu for the High Point Panthers. There was a lot of anticipation here at the QBN Center. This place literally erupted when it was announced that High Point would be an 11th seed, going all the way to Portland, Oregon, to take on Wisconsin in the West region. Now, this is back-to-back tournaments for the High Point Panthers. However, this is the first one under the leadership of head coach Flynn Clayman. Earlier, we spoke with Coach Clayman about how this team is different from last year's. But first, we spoke with guard Rob Martin about how these fans have supported them this entire season. I know you've known for about a week now that you are going to make it, but what was kind of the emotions like now that you know exactly where you are, who you're playing?
Man, the emotions are high. First, we want to give all glory to God, man. Knowing last year I played in the conference tournament against SEMO, not making it, and just knowing that feeling of wish you did more or stuff that you could have did better. So knowing this year that we're making it, man, it's been one of a journey. I'm excited for our guys, the coaches, Coach Flynn, of course. It just goes to all the work that we put in the summer, early mornings, and really just trusting in one another. And I'm excited to get there to Portland Thursday.
Hey, talk about the crowd out there. It seemed like it was packed. It seemed like it was a lot of good energy. Yeah. Just how has it been having that crowd with you all this entire season, but also today for one of the biggest moments in High Point history?
Man, it's been huge. We've been needing it since day one. And the first game they came out, they supported us, and they gave us that boost. And it started in Johnson City as well, helping us get that title game. Then, of course, today was huge, man. They came out to support like they've been doing all year. So just really, it just shows to how high of the community they are that support us, alumni, boosters, and stuff like that. So it's been huge, and today was great.
And then, lastly, what is this next week of preparation going to look like before we get to Thursday, where you're going to play Wisconsin and, again, try to get a win?
Man, it's mainly just doing what we've been doing the whole time, playing High Point basketball, not doing nothing new, not acting brand new, and just staying focused, listening to Coach and what he has to say, his game plans, his execution. So that's just the main thing, keeping the main thing, and just focusing on us.
Rob, thanks so much. Congratulations again.
Yes, I appreciate you. Thank you for having me.
Bryce, I love how he said that the Panthers fans have been supporting them all throughout the season, traveling wherever they're at. but this is a long road trip for the Panthers. They have to go all the way out to the West Coast to Portland, Oregon. Did they express any concerns with how far they have to travel for the NCAA tournament?
Now, Logan, let me tell you, this is a very confident team. We talked to the coaches and the players. They are not concerned about traveling to the West Coast. They believe in making the main thing, and not changing up anything they've done to get them here this entire season. They also say that this is a High Point Panthers fan base that travels well. So they expect a lot of purple to be in those seats in Portland, Oregon when they take on Wisconsin on Thursday.
I love it, Bryce. We love the support from the local community. I gotta ask you, they said that we need to play High Point basketball, and that's how they know that they're going to advance. You've been able to watch High Point all throughout the season. To you and to people down in Charlotte who might not know anything about High Point, how would you describe their style of play?
This is a team that likes to play very fast, and they also like to get after on defense. This is a team, they're averaging 90 points a game. That is 6th in the entire NCAA. This team, they love, and they also are one of the top leading teams in steals. So if they can make sure that they keep a fast pace, they can make sure that they continue to score points. We see in these tournaments, whoever can shoot threes consistently, whoever gets to the free throw line, whoever can make baskets is the team that is going to be able to win. So if they can make sure that Wisconsin does not slow them down, because Wisconsin, they're a team that really likes to slow things down. If they make sure that they can play their fast pace of offense, you will see an upset on Thursday.
Terry Anderson is a three machine for the Panthers. Bryce, you were there watching them when their name was called. I was there last year. Just take us to that moment. What were the players' reactions? What were the fans' reactions inside the Cuban Center?
Logan, it seemed like there was not a single person in their seats here. Like I said, it was a very packed Cuban Center. Everyone was on their feet. The players were smiling. They were happy. They were having a good time. They were all into it. As you can see, so many news outlets were here. So many people were here to support them, not just fans, but students, the community. Everyone was happy. Everyone is excited. But also, now that they know where they are, now they are very focused on making sure that they beat this Wisconsin team later this week.
Bryce, the party's still going on right behind you. I mean, everyone is still there dancing, have a great time. I know the women's is also in the NCAA tournament. We're waiting to see where their name will get called in just a few minutes. But I want to go back to High Point, the men's team. They are the 12 seed. That is a great draw. As we all know, 12 seeds is the most likely to upset a 5 seed. What did this team say to you about what makes them confident that they'll be able to pull that off?
Well, one, they've seen Wisconsin play a good amount this year. Again, they said they're a team that likes to slow things down, and they're a team that likes to speed it up. So they're confident that, one, being a 12 seed, that history's on their side, but also this is a team, they won 14 games in a row this year. They are not shy about the fact that they are confident in their shooters, they're confident in their defense, and they truly believe that they can take that into their game this week.
Facing a Big Ten team in Wisconsin, how can they beat them, Bryce?
Again, just making sure that Wisconsin doesn't slow them down. When you think about Big Ten basketball, you think of teams who have a lot of bigs. They want to slow it down. They want to make sure that you get in foul trouble. So rebounding is one of the things that head coach Lou Clayman talked about. You need to make sure that this team rushes the glass, but also they need to make sure that they get turnovers. Again, High Point, one of the top teams in the entire country in getting turnovers. If they do not chase these loose balls, get more opportunities for rebounds, that is how, one, High Point can be vulnerable, but also if they do what they need to do, they can make sure that they have Wisconsin on the ropes.
Marker for us at High Point University in the dance for the second straight time. First time, though, under Flynn Clayman, and Bryce did catch up with Coach after the selection was made.
Coach Tom, congratulations. Kind of walk me through those emotions of finally, after a whole week waiting and then now knowing exactly where you're going to play?
We're speculating, looking at the bracketology and everything, but your ticket's punched, so you're not too nervous about it. It's just more anticipation to say, who's the matchup, who can we prepare for? Then when the day got here, it got real exciting because, it's going to be fun. It's a dream come true, especially first time as head coach. So it's just a ton of fun and good to know where we're going.
Coach, and played a lot of games, won a lot of games this year. What is this next week of preparation going to look like before you all take the court in Portland on Thursday?
Yeah, we'll just stick to what we've been doing. Same prep, just another game in our eyes. Got to do the same thing that's been working. Prepare the same way. Don't need to make it bigger than it is. There's going to be 40 minutes of basketball, 10-foot rims, and we're going to prepare for the game.
Right. I know you made the tournament last year. You were the assistant coach. Now you're the head coach with a retooled roster. How has this team looked different than the one last year?
The one thing for sure is on the defensive end, just forcing more turnovers, getting more steals, being a little more active. That's a definite difference. Hopefully that benefits us, getting a couple pick six, free points. It's huge. It's more than just getting a stop. When you force a turnover, you score in transition. So that's going to be a big thing for us in this game.
We talked to Terry and Rob earlier. What is it like having those type of players be the leaders of your team this year, and how have they kind of helped your team continue to stay focused with this win streak and with the points scored as well?
I mean, those two guys have been phenomenal amongst other guys, but Terry and Rob, first-team All-League guys, just do it all. Terry does it all. He's a Swiss Army knife. He rebounds, he defends, he scores, he gets to the free throw line, he can shoot from outside. And then Rob is just the quickest guard I've coached. Pushes that ball in transition, finds people, can obviously score it like crazy, and then he's a really pesky defender too, creating steals.
And then last question, what is the message to this squad going into the game on Thursday against Wisconsin, where a lot of people might favor them, but you all feel like you're not only favored in this game, but you think you all can make a run?
I mean, our message is going to be focused on the game plan. We don't need to worry about seeds or anything. I think it's going to be a relief on our team to not be the favorite, because it's just something that weighs on the projected one seed, in your league all year. So, we'll have a sense of freedom out there and see what we can do.
Coach Slayman, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Best of luck to you.
All right, that was High Point coach Flynn Clayman with our own Bryce Parker here on our NCAA Tournament Bracket Breakdown. Thank you for watching here on WCNC and WFMY Plus. Joined by my co-host from Greensboro, Logan Campbell. And we've got another special guest. We talked to Locked On Heels. We talked to Locked On Blue Devils. Of course, we got to mix in Locked On Wolfpack with our guy Kenton Gibbs. Kenton, they didn't do enough to avoid Dayton, did they?
No, and you know what? It reminds me of that Metallica song, No Leaf Clover, right? The soothing light at the end of your tunnel is just a freight train coming your way, because at the end of the day, this team had a very good seeding position locked up already. This was something that coming into the last month or so of the season, everything looked like it was rolling in a very positive direction. And then next thing you know, an epic collapse, the likes of which we have not seen in quite some time, right? You look at the Miami game, you're up 9 points late. You somehow blow that lead. You lose to a Notre Dame team that was hapless and helpless. You lose to Stanford as well on senior day. It ultimately came down to, for me, if you know you're NC State, why would you give the committee the opportunity to send you to Dayton? Why would you give them the opportunity for them to match you up with Dalen Payne and Pope and company of the Longhorns? Why would you even do that? Luckily, the Longhorns are just one of the few teams that are playing even worse than NC State did down the stretch.
Kenan, I got to ask you, I have family members that went to NC State, and when they called their name for one of the first four, they were so upset. So I have to ask you, are you surprised at all that they're in this position?
I'm extremely surprised that they are here in that the resume speaks to being a 10 seed or higher. The resume speaks to that flat out. Like, we're not going to sit here and pretend like, this was a situation that made sense, that was predicted going in. Almost everybody who did bracketology or something along those lines had NC State as a 10 seed. But again, if you go back to NC State as a team, you have to know who you are. You have to know where you are in the landscape of college athletics. And you have to understand, every time you give a committee, every time you give a group of humans the opportunity to take it away from you or put you in a very disadvantaged position as NC State, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. So, I played there. I sacrificed 3 tendons for the university. Trust me, if anybody knows what it's like to be a part of NC State athletics, it's me. But the reality is, this is what you get when you stumble down the stretch. When, again, those games were supposed to be easy wins. When you lose to 2 or 3 teams that did not qualify for the ACC tournament, you get these types of results.
All right, Kenton, I mean, the Pack rebounded at least a little bit here in Charlotte. They beat Pittsburgh after 4 straight losses. Then they went toe-to-toe for a while with Virginia, who went toe-to-toe with Duke last night. Does that give Pack fans any solace about getting out of this first 4?
I will tell you this. The solace of Pac fans is the foundation that was set in the Will Wade era for this season. If you talk to most of Wolfpack Nation right now, the vibes are not very high. People are not saying, hey, this team, expect them to go on that 2024 Kevin Keats was about to get fired run. That's not what people are expecting. That's not, anything out of this team is a bonus, because Will Wade at the end of the day came in saying he was going to be, it was either in the top half or the top 4 seed against a lot of contention there in terms of the ACC tournament and get to the dance. He's gotten to the dance. The hope and the solace of NC State fans is the fact that we are closer, and I know this is going to make everybody on this set feel old, including me. We are closer to the year 2050 than we are the year 2000. And yet every time you look up, there was a new thing happening at NC State with men's basketball, where it's like, first time NC State's men's basketball has done this since 19 insert year here. So the solace of NC State fans right now for basketball is not, this tournament's going to go great and we're going to end up in the Final Four and everything's going to be good. It's much more of, this team has done things that have been unprecedented for NC State. We will build better. Will Wade and Slater, we trust them to have a higher hit rate next year, but even with year 0 recruiting, we're good enough to make the dance, which is saying something.
I just want to point out,
Kenton,
I'm
like you
old.
said.
Logan's not.
Oh, go ahead.
But Logan, keep going.
No, I don't know. My birthday is on Sunday. I'm like reaching that threshold where I'm feeling really old.
There you go. Happy birthday.
Anyways, Kenton, you mentioned. Thank you. You mentioned it's a win that they even made the tournament, especially after last year when it was just an abysmal year for NC State. So that's a plus, but they have to make it past the first 4 in. And they're playing an opponent that they actually faced earlier this year in Texas. That was a 4-point loss for NC State. What do you need to see them do differently this time around to get that win and move on to the first round of the NCAA tournament?
I mean, I think that the obvious answer here is play some better perimeter defense. You allowed Jordan Pope, and this had been a theme for NC State all year, allowing guys to go off for career high after career high after career high. They were giving them out like Oprah was giving out cars in the early 2000s. You may be too young to understand that one. But, you sit here and say, Jordan Pope put up his second highest point total of the season against NC State. And we know about the deficiencies in terms of perimeter defense that this team has had all year. That's not something that was new. At that time, it was new because that was around Thanksgiving. But the reality is, you come to accept this is one of the limitations of this team, but you can't allow another 30-point or darn near 30-point performance by Pope. You just can't have that. You cannot have that. In this upcoming rematch, you need to have tighter defensive rotations. You need to have less open shooters. And you need to, hit shots. NC State has lived and died by the 3, and hopefully they're living their way on out of Dayton.
Kenton, anytime I know a coach or player doesn't want to answer a question, I ask it last.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask you.
Oh, wow.
Oh, no.
Did Will Wade slam the door on the LSU stuff, as one national columnist said he did not after those comments in the post game in Charlotte?
So you just going to go against the grain like this? You just go. See, I told you
that's why I said I ask it last.
But I'm gonna be amicable about this thing here. I'm gonna be good and decent and cordial. The reality is this: national media has not wanted Will Wade at State from the beginning, right? Some of the major talking heads, when he was originally being courted by NC State, had written him off and literally said, NC State is out for Will Wade and, all that good stuff. And yet, people like myself who have boots on the ground, who were very close to the situation, I could not divulge the full extent of the information, but at that time when people were saying NC State was out, the deal was already done. And in this situation, if there was an update for me to tell you in terms of, hey, there is meaningful, substantive talk about Will Wade going back to LSU, or there's meaningful, hey, this is going to have a ripple effect throughout the ACC type of deal here, I would gladly be the first one to tell and kind of let folks know, hey, hopefully you enjoyed this year with Will because it's over. But to me, he definitively slammed the door. What else do you want him to say besides a bunch of expletives ending in the word off, saying, hey, I want to be at NC State. He said he plans on winning big here. He said him and the administration are getting together to put together a better season for next season. I don't know what else he could have done, especially with who Will Wade is and how his personality is. And even when he says, I've got a team of a bunch of nice guys, but not guys who have that competitive edge, people took that as him slamming education. So being him, what do you say to win in that situation while definitively slamming the door? To me, it seems like, Will Wade definitively slammed the door, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wearing my Wolfpack tinted glasses.
Kenton stayed on the Zoom, so that's a win. Logan, I'll give you the last one.
That was one of the questions I had for you. Kenton, we talked with a lot of players after the game. They said that they need to fix and stick together, which I thought was interesting because after the game, they all huddled together. You talked about the defense being a problem, but do you think the chemistry on the floor might trickle over to the NCAA tournament and be a problem for NC State?
The biggest thing that I would say is a problem or is an indicator of whether or not this team will have success, and I hate to say this because it's one of the worst, most cop-out things in the world, but it's just effort. If you watch NC State in a lot of these games, especially during this losing streak, you will have seen the team that guys were reluctant to get on the floor for a loose ball, guys were reluctant to run all out in transition and all that. But something that you saw in the tournament, even against Virginia, the effort level is higher than what we saw against anybody but the Tar Heels from North Carolina. So when you look at that, this is something I joke about with NC State fans all the time. I talk about it with Dave Dorn, and maybe we need to do it with basketball too. If we could just get them some glasses where everybody looks like UNC, so you want to play that hard every single night in every single game, we might go undefeated one of these days. But in all seriousness, the effort is more so of a concern of mine than the chemistry. I think the chemistry, it is what it is. You're at the end of the season now. If you don't got it, you ain't going to develop it over a plane ride from Raleigh, North Carolina to Dayton, Ohio. But the effort, that can be there. That can be a consistent that for as long as this tournament run goes, you can have it or it cannot be there, and we can see ourselves get bounced out very early.
All right, he's going to be doing a lot of talking over the next couple of days as NC State prepares for this first 4 game in Dayton. He is Kenton Gibbs from Locked On Wolfpack. Find his spot there on X, LO_Wolfpack, and his personal X is TGIF_Kenton. I love Fridays too. Hey, man, thank you.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
All right. A quick reset here on the WCNC plus WFMY plus bracket breakdown. We've got 5 Carolina schools in the field. Of course, there's Duke, there's Carolina, Clemson, NC State, which we just talked about, Furman, Queens, and High Point. Let's talk more Duke, the number 1 overall seed, as we get J.J. Jackson back here in a moment. So we're going to pause on that. Logan, what's your biggest concern about NC State, I guess, another team you've followed all year?
I would have to agree with Kenton. I think it's the effort. For the first time this year, I don't know if you've ever been to the Lenovo Center to watch an NC State game, but the press box is like in Narnia. It is so far away. You're closer probably watching on TV, but during the ACC tournament, I was able to sit behind NC State's bench, and I was actually able to hear them talk with each other, hear Will Wade talk with them. And it's so funny because when you watch Will Wade on TV, it just seems like he's screaming all the time and just being being angry. But he is so positive. He's yelling, but it's positive reinforcement when he's talking with his players. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if they're not retaining the information well, but his delivery is softer than I thought it was and how it comes across on TV. I just think it's a matter of the will to win out on the court. We saw that with Duke. They didn't have the excuse we were down 2 starters. We're not going to play up to the level that we normally play at. And with NC State, we see sometimes they come up with some excuses. So it's the effort and the consistency, which is my biggest red flag for NC State coming into the NCAA tournament.
All right, from an 11 seed to the number 1 overall seed, we're going to talk Duke one more time with our guy from Locked On Blue Devils, J.J. Jackson. J.J., Coach John Shire, League Coach of the Year. A lot of people will criticize that because of the program he inherited and the players that Duke has always attracted, although he's the one bringing them in now. 3 of 4 seasons he's won the ACC tournament. Was this his best coaching job this week in Charlotte without Patrick Gongba and without Caleb Foster in the lineup?
Yeah, I think it's really got to be when you think about the fact that it's a one-and-done scenario, right? If you lose, you're done. You're eliminated. And if you win, you've got to come back in less than 24 hours to be ready to go, minus the 2 starters, like you said, and asking guys to step up into a larger role. And that's saying a lot. This is still a team that last year, going all the way to the Final Four, had the entire starting 5 drafted into the NBA. And so to put them in a position to be the number 1 overall seed, to go into the ACC tournament without 2 players like they did last season when Duke did not have Cooper Flagg or Malik Brown playing in the 2025 edition of the ACC tournament. It was really impressive to see what Shire was able to do this week in Charlotte, given the impact of both Foster and Gongba combined, and considering when you go from Cooper Flagg to Con Knippel, not as large of a drop-off as there is when you look at the roster makeup of this year's team when you're missing some of those top players for Duke.
JJ, you just kind of touched on it. Everyone thought last year was going to be the year that Duke ends up winning the national championship. What gives you confidence that this will be the year that they win the national championship?
Yeah, Logan, that's the million-dollar question. I want to do whatever it takes, whatever dance or move I've got to make here in dancing season for March Madness to make sure that this Duke team can win the national championship. What gives me confidence, and I think what gives everyone else confidence with this team, is that they've got the Boozer twins on this roster. These guys won 4 straight state championships in high school at Christopher Columbus High there in Miami. They won Peach Jam 3 times. They won the Nike EYBL circuit. They were national champions. I mean, these are winners when you look at the Boozer twins, and they've got larger roles now when we get into March Madness. I mentioned the full roster makeup, and for what my money's worth, I do think John Shire is the best coach in the sport. The way he schemes up these matchups, the way he gets the Duke team to buy in defensively is so impressive. So I think those are the top reasons why people should not be afraid to pick Duke to win the national championship this time around.
JJ, we talked a lot about Caden Boozer earlier in the show, and rightfully so after the night he had last night and what that could portend for Duke here in March. But we have to talk about Cameron Boozer, league player, league freshman of the year. He's not top of mind because he was a little off last night, still made plenty of winning plays, rebounds, putbacks, great passing for assists. How do you put Cameron Boozer and the year he's had as a first-year player in perspective with Zion Williamson, Cooper Flagg, those type of players of late?
Yeah, it's been a conversation that so many of us are having in the Duke world, is trying to compare these one-and-done freshman seasons that we've seen, and certainly what Flagg was able to do in recent memory, winning the top player of the year award, going all the way to the Final Four. I could even go to the 2022 season and Coach K's final year when he had the number 1 overall pick in Paulo Banchero, take them all the way to the Final Four. But what we've seen out of Cam Boozer night in and night out, prior to last night, 14 points was his lowest scoring output that he had in 20 minutes in a game against Howard. I mean, now we're talking about a Virginia team that had Ugo Anyoso blocking every shot imaginable, and I thought the greatest compliment that he was able to give, speaking of Cameron Boozer, is all the other top players in the sport that he'd gone up against would have been deflated by not having things go their way. Not Cam Boozer. He's there to make big-time buckets late in that second half for Duke. Made some big free throws to put and ice the game away, and then impact winning in other ways. Sure, he went 3 of 17 shooting in a game like this, but he grabbed rebounds. He had 8 assists. His all-around game and makeup, I think, are what makes him so talented, and he absolutely deserves to be in the conversation. I think he's got a really good case to be the best individual freshman season we've seen out of a Duke basketball player. And as we've said, that is saying a whole lot.
No doubt about it. I mean, how cool is it that Cameron and Caden had some of the best games of their careers during this ACC tournament, and just seeing their confidence grow together. I know you covered Duke for a very long time, JJ, but it's not often you really see 2 brothers on the same team. How special is that to cover them and see them just grow together and have their careers blossom in Durham?
Yeah, I think it's been so much fun. I am one of those, put me in the big family guy bucket, right? Like I love family and interactions that I've got personally with brother, and just the bond that these guys share, I think has been so much fun to watch. And they get the best out of one another. I think their story has been so fascinating, and add in the legacy piece, right, that their dad was a member of the 2001 national championship team and went on to have a successful NBA playing career. I think that element makes this thing so cool and so engaging. And yeah, certainly a big fan of brothers, and the fact that these twins are wearing the Duke jersey across their chests, they've got a fan in me for life, that's for sure.
JJ, real quick, getting over that Final Four hump is the next step for Jon Scheyer. I mean, he's only been here for 4 years. He got there last year, and tough loss to Houston. It feels like it's inevitable. But what do you think his process is as a coach from covering him, for him to get better in those moments, not just winning the ACC regular season and tournament championship?
Yeah, game by game, I think he's just so dialed into the matchups specifically, and thinking back to last season and what ultimately played out. I have thought about those last 30-some whatever seconds it was where Duke had the 6-point lead and Sion James can't inbound the basketball and Tyrese Proctor misses the front end of a 1-and-1 and Cooper Flagg's got a look late on a pull-up jumper. Like, I've thought about that a ton. And I think that nowhere compares to the number of times that Jon Scheyer has kind of been playing through those final 30 seconds with the 6-point lead and a chance to go to the national title game on his line. That said, I think this is a guy who's going to be so dialed in. Like this game against Siena, when you look at these sports books, Duke's going to open up as a near 30-point favorite in some respects. And Jon Scheyer's going to treat them just as much as it'd be a national championship type game, trying to move on game by game. I think that's what it makes him so great, and got to bring it on the defensive end of the floor first. Certainly this offense, as we've seen lately, is going to follow suit too.
All right, J.J. Jackson from Locked On Blue Devils doubling up with us here as he covers the number 1 overall seed in the NCAA Tournament. Duke taking on Siena as a 16-1 next week down in Greenville, South Carolina. J.J., thanks for everything, man. Appreciate you.
Thanks for the invites, guys.
All right, we talked to people about Duke, about NC State, North Carolina. We had live reports from High Point, from Queens, as they hope that the slipper fits for their Cinderella story going into March Madness here. I had all designs on like filling out a bracket. I don't know how I thought I was going to do that, Logan, while we did this. I picked a Final Four.
I did the same thing.
Did you? All right, so let's compare Final Four picks, and we'll bring in producer Jeb, who's got tired fingers from punching a bunch of buttons and get all these live feeds and reports in, doing a great job. Logan, what is your Final Four before you even filled out the bracket?
Oh, gosh. Nick, I tried filling this out so many times, and I have this problem every time I fill out a bracket. I hate every single pick I make. My thing is I love upsets in the tournament. We didn't really see a whole lot last year, which makes me think maybe we'll see some in the early rounds, like a few, but I don't think we're going to see, like, super long runs that are upsets. My Final Four, I'm sorry, everyone, it is very boring. I have Duke, Florida, Purdue. If you watched the Big Ten championship today, it was really impressive what they did today, and Virginia. I was really impressed with what I saw from Virginia in the ACC tournament, so I think they're going to go on a very big run for the NCAA.
That's not boring. That's 2 1s, a 2, and a 3. So that's a lot of people would just go all chalk, especially if I gave them 3 seconds to pick it. So great job. I'm gonna agree with you on Virginia. I was super impressed by them yesterday, especially with Onyensu. Do you have 9 blocks? That was ridiculous. To shut down a player of Cameron Boozer's caliber, nobody had done so far. I don't know why he comes off the bench, but it's working for Ryan Odom. But they've got shooters, they've got depth, and he gives them a level of length and physicality. So I'm definitely going Virginia out of the Midwest. Out of the East, I'm picking Duke. I think with what they went through and were able to overcome this week in their starting lineup, and hopefully it seems like they'll get Gongba back and maybe even Caleb Foster by the Final Four, but the ascension of Caden Boozer really makes me feel good about them. And then I've got Florida because, man, they have the ability to dominate basketball games and looking to come back and win it again. Out of the West, I got a little weird.
I
got a little weird.
That's my favorite take. That's crazy. That's
BYU
wild.
has not defeated Arizona all year. They have lost twice. One was a very close game. I really like Arizona. They're led by Jaden Bradley, who actually played some of his high school ball in Concord up the street. I really like them. But I want to see this Dabansa kid for as long as possible to really form my own opinion on him. I want to see BYU in the Final Four. It'd be crazy. The Mormons go to the Final Four.
No, and
I
think that he has the most to gain of any of the high.
Yeah, because there is no
prospects.
Consensus number 1 right now.
No, I mean you think it's going to be Boozer, but I think this is a tournament where these guys have an opportunity to really show off.
Did not put Purdue in, despite how impressed I am with them after today beating Michigan. because Queens is going to take down the Boilermakers.
It's going to be the best upset that we've seen forever.
Let's go. They got the Schlesinger. They can shoot the lights out. They can score 50, 60 points in a half in the A-Sun. We'll see if they can do it in here. And then, of course, I mean, Logan, we got to take High Point to go on a little run here, right? I mean, they have experience now, too.
Yeah. Yep, I have them beating Wisconsin.
Yep.
I don't trust Wisconsin ever in the NCAA tournament, so I'm always going to pick against them. So sorry if there's any Badger fans watching. I could see them. This might be a hot take, but I could see them potentially going to the Sweet 16.
I think they can beat Arkansas too. I think they could absolutely beat both. Arkansas almost lost to Winthrop at home this year, a team that I love and cover that lost to High Point. So connect the dots, everybody. All right, that is it for our NCAA tournament bracket breakdown here on WCNC Plus and WFMY Plus. Logan, thank you so much for joining me after a long week, a late night, and a long drive back to Greensboro. Thank you very much to Bryce Parker at High Point, Danielle Stein at Queens, Kenton Gibbs, Isaac Shade, JJ Jackson, all from Locked On. Made this for a great show, and now we get to see what happens in the best event in sports.